everyone, it's Shell from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be creating this birthday scene card for my goddaughter and niece, Mila. She turned 3 at the end of February, and we just had her birthday party yesterday, so I can finally share the card that I made for her. And this is made from some Kindred Stamps products that were in a kit for a class. I didn't take the class, but the kit was available later on and I was able to purchase it. I don't believe that it's available now. They do have a lot of limited release stuff. Actually, most of their stuff is limited and sometimes they restock and sometimes they don't. So if you want to try to get this, I would definitely become a fan of Kindred Stamps' Facebook page. They will tell you what restocks and when. It's generally on Fridays, and she puts a calendar out for the month on when restocks are going to be. So if you're interested in this kit, I'm not sure if it's going to come back, but that's what you can always do. Also, if you have a Cricut or a Silhouette or any type of die cutting machine, you can do something very similar to this. And I'm sure other companies have similar products. What I wanted to show you was more of techniques on ways to do things and not really focus on the actual products. So I'm using a Honeybee Stamps salvaged brick stencil to put bricks and add a little bit of texture to the castle pieces, as well as, and I used sponge sugar to do that. And I'm also using prize ribbon around the blue parts of the castle. These are like the topper pieces for that to kind of give a little bit of depth and dimension. So now I'm going to glue this together. And since I didn't take the class, I really couldn't find instructions on how to put this together online. So I decided, let's look up what the castle looks like and figure it out, make it look as close to it as possible. Oh, that's what I did. I don't know if this is the proper way to put the castle together, but I thought it looked cute. And when Mila opened it yesterday, she knew exactly what it was. So I said, I must have done a good job if a 3-year-old could figure out what it was. So I decided to do the pinks and the blues because we had gone to Disney in December, and then my brother and sister-in-law took Nora and Mila for Mila's 3rd birthday, right before she turned 3. They took her to Disney, so she had just seen the castle and, you know, it was decorated for the 50th anniversary, and that's what I wanted to represent to her because Mila has never seen the castle. It was her first trip. This was her first trip, so I decided to glue all the pieces together, and this is how I was going to assemble it. Now, because this isn't available, just a couple ideas for you guys. There probably are other companies out there that have dies that are similar to this. If you have a die cut machine, you can look up castles and see what you can find, see if there's anything similar. However, you can also just recreate this from basic shapes. This isn't very complicated. These shapes are probably pretty easy to replicate, or you could take images from different castles and put one together. So I am also going to try to do some videos like that, trying to potentially recreate cards that I've made using the die cutting machine because I don't often incorporate the die cutting machine into my card making, and I want to start to use the Cricut a little bit more. I've paid all this money for it. I've paid to have the subscription, so why not use it? As a side note to the Cricut thing, I am going to include pictures of the Cupcake Toppers that I did for Mila's party at the end of the video. She had a Gabby's Dollhouse party, which was super cute, but the place couldn't find a lot of decorations. So my sister-in-law asked me to make some cake toppers. So I printed those out, or actually had the Cricut draw it out, and then I colored them all in with Copic markers. So I'll show you guys that picture at the end. Now we're going to work on the card front for this card, and you'll notice this paper looks really, really large, and I couldn't figure out what I did until I measured it at the end. Instead of doing a 5x7 card front that was like, it was an 1/8 of an inch smaller than a 5x7 card front, I did an 1/8 of an inch smaller than a 6x7. So I eventually will cut this down after I realize what my mistake was. But as I was inking it up, I'm like, God, this looks so large. This looks like I have so much surface area to work with. Could have created a custom card base for this, but I decided against it and just did the pre-made one that I had that was already a 5x7. So to create the background or the night sky, I'm using some Villainous Potion, Prize Ribbon, and Black Soot. And you can see I'm just going back and forth between the colors of Distress Oxide to make sure that everything blends nicely. Again, if you've seen any of my videos, I am an aggressive ink blender, which is why the camera is shaking. It was also plugged in, so I think I kept hitting the cord with my left arm. And so that's part of the problem too, is that I kept hitting the cord. But I am an aggressive ink blender. I need to learn to build up the ink colors in layers rather than just try to go down with a ton of ink, lay down the color one time, because I think you get better results and better blends when you build up that color layer after layer. Now, let me know if you have any other tips for layering or blending oxides like this or creating a background. What do you guys do? If you have any suggestions, leave it below in the comment section. I would love to see your tips and techniques for that, and hopefully I can incorporate some of that into my card making and not be such an aggressive ink blender. And I know some of my friends are also aggressive ink blenders, so they probably don't have any tips. That's my favorite part, is when I take off the washi tape and you see that background kind of come together. Now I'm going to flip it over. I do have the tape back down on the other side. And one of my tips for that is when you're lining something up to try to get images to butt up against each other or stencils to butt up against each other, when you put the washi tape down, leave a little bit, like a very small sliver of the inked portion showing, because if you don't, you're going to have a little white gap between the two. So the stencil that I'm using, I'm not really sure where it's from. I thought it was from Honeybee, but it looks like it may have come out of a Kindred Stamps stencil. I have binders with them in there, divided up by company, so I don't know which company it's from, but I used some hickory smoke to put down that cobblestone look. I took a little bit of artistic licensing from that. I know that it's not full cobblestone around there. I think that there's just like bricks on the bridge on the way over. We didn't walk through the castle this time, but I wanted to, I just wanted to kind of give it a cobblestone look on the bottom. So now we're going to start with the fireworks in the night sky. When we were there, we saw it was all decorated for Christmas, and it was so pretty, and we saw the fireworks show, and it was just so beautiful at night. I wanted the fireworks to be in there, but not be super, super focal. I didn't want the focus to be on the fireworks. I wanted it to be on Minnie and the castle. So I chose to use a couple colors of Distress Oxide. I used Shaded Lilac, Picked Raspberry, Peacock Feathers, and Salvage Patina. Actually, I don't even think I used Salvage Patina because Peacock Feathers was super light. But I did go through and do that. If I wanted bolder images, I probably would have heat embossed them, and that was my initial thought process on this, was to heat emboss them. I also bring in the Sweet Tooth pigment ink from MFT because those colors were so light. And you'll notice that when I stamp this image, it's pretty bright white, and it very quickly fades back to almost the colors of Distress Oxide behind it. So again, it gave just a subtle image, and I was okay with that because I didn't need it to be such a focal point. There are several characters in the stamp set, so I chose the Mickey and Minnie images, inked them up with MFT Extreme Black ink, which is safe for Copic markers, and I'm also going to heat set it. You'll notice that I only use the Minnie image. I initially had thought that I was going to do a slimline card and then change my mind as I put the castle together, and it was too wide for a slimline card. So I changed my plan, and I'm only going to use the Minnie image. I did cut out some of the Copic coloring because, again, it was very basic. I didn't do anything. I really didn't do any shading, and my hand was over Minnie most of the time, so you couldn't really even see me coloring her dress in, so it kind of was pointless. I am going to leave in some of the coloring of her fur. I guess that's what you call it on a mouse, the fur. And I'm using N6 and N5 4, I believe, to color in her. I would go in with N8 or the 100, which is black. But sometimes I do like to use dark grays for black. Not everything has to be very, very dark black, and I just like the way this looked. You can do whatever you want. I think this is N8 and N6 that I do use. N4 is really, really gray, so I don't think that's what I used to color her in. And then I fix her eyes a little bit. They didn't stamp all the way. I do that with a pen off camera. And then I'm going to go in and color her face in. I did think this was a little bit too dark. I put a line down and I thought that it was going to be okay, and I always forget. And I believe this is E42. And I think it's just a little bit too dark for Minnie. So I'm going to go back in with some lighter colors and try to blend that out a little bit and lighten it up. But I have seen some Minnie characters with darker skin tone. So I'm just going to do my best to kind of fade it back. Again, when Mila opened up the card, I said, "Who's on it?" And she said, "Minnie." So she was so excited. She knew who it was. So for her, I did a good job. I did have a little bit of a hard time staying within the lines because it is so tiny. There's such tiny pieces around those dots. So what I do is I take my white gel pen and fill back in those little white dots to make them white again. I'm also going to go in with a colorless blender to try to take some of that ink away from her face to make her a little bit lighter. I am going to fussy cut this image because, again, her tail's not there, so it's not that super tiny. I do have a Brother Scan and Cut, but I'm trying to get better at cutting out images, fussy cutting images. One of the things that's really helped me is turning the paper and not moving the scissors as much. So you'll see here, I did cut some of the fussy cutting out of this as well because it was off screen and you weren't really seeing anything except my hand. So I did cut that out. I didn't think you'd want to sit and watch that, but the very end of the fussy cutting is in there. And I'm also going to take a brush tip marker to go around the edges of Minnie facing, so the point of the marker is facing the colored part of the image. So if I slip, it'll go on the back and not on the front and ruin your image. So that's important. But I do go around the edges just to get rid of that white core. And also, if I've left a little bit of white space that I can't get rid of, that marker colors it in pretty nicely. I'm going to lay out my image, try to figure out where I want things, and I'm going to use that same Be Creative glue from Honeybee to put my castle and Minnie down on there. So I am just attaching it, and again, you can see the fireworks in the background a little bit on camera. In the pictures, you can see it a little bit better, and as well as in person, you could see it better. So once I've placed the castle down, I'm going to do the same thing with Minnie, and then I'm going to go through the stamp set. I had a couple of stamp sets out, some from Kindred Stamps, some from MFT, and wanted to find a really cute sentiment for her birthday. And then it says, have a magical birthday. Oh, sorry, before this, I left this in because I didn't use the stencil, but this is a stencil that comes with the kit. You could have used those fireworks in the background. That would have been really pretty to use some distress inks and distress oxides on, but I chose not to. I chose to stamp them with the MFT fireworks stamp set. So now I'm just going through, and a lot of the phrases are in pieces, so you can mix and match, which I love because it extends the amount of sentiments that you get in this whole set. I'm going to put it in my MISTI, and I'm going to stamp with that same MFT Extreme Black ink and to put the sentiment on there. I was trying to figure out if I was going to do sentiment strips, but I didn't really want to add too much. I wanted the sentiment to be on there again, but not be a super focal point of it. I wanted Minnie and the castle really to be the focal points for this. So once that's done, I think this is when I realized that the card is too big, and I cut it down a little bit before I put it onto the black card base, which is a 5x7 pre-made card base. Actually, this is a 5x6.5, so I did have to cut it down a little bit more. So that's the whole card. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've also included pictures of the cake toppers when I finish them, and then the cupcake toppers in the cupcakes. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you again real soon for another video.